Rimuru and Ultima goes to One Piece, Rimuru and Ultima x One Piece, by Veldanava-God. Chapter 39. A new Yonkou emerges. Months had passed since the Tempest Pirates' monumental victory over Big Mom. Rimuru and Ultima were seated comfortably upon their respective thrones in the Grand Hall of Veldoria Castle. The atmosphere in the room was tranquil, with the soft murmurs of their generals in the background as reports of their territories flowed in. Sylphira, Kalis, and Tessa stood at attention, their eyes sharp, waiting for orders or news. All seemed calm. Suddenly, a familiar sound broke the silence, the flapping of wings. The messenger seagull swooped into the throne room, carrying the latest edition of the world newspaper. One of the castle guards caught the bird, retrieving the newspaper and offering it to Rimuru with a respectful bow. Rimuru's golden eyes gleamed with curiosity as he took the newspaper, Ultima leaning over slightly from her throne to glance at the headlines with him. The moment he saw the front page, a sly grin began to form on Rimuru's face. Well, what do we have here? Rimuru's voice echoed with interest, his fingers drumming against the armrest of his throne. Ultima's golden eyes sparkled with amusement as she caught sight of the headline. The article read, Monkey D. Luffy defeats Kaido, new Yonkou rises. Monkey D. Luffy. Ultima muttered, a hint of intrigue in her voice as she read the report aloud. Bounty now at 3 billion berries. Looks like he's finally made a name for himself. Rimuru leaned back on his throne, casually folding the newspaper. And not just him. Trafalgar Law, also 3 billion berries. But it seems the Marines haven't given him the Yonkou title, too bad for him. Ultima let out a low chuckle, tapping her long nails against her throne. Luffy and Law. Together they've taken down Kaido, and now they've earned those insane bounties. But you know what that means, don't you? Rimuru raised an eyebrow, already knowing where her mind was headed. Oh, I can guess. Ultima leaned forward, her grin widening into something almost maniacal. They'll come here. To our territory. You know how Luffy is, always looking for a challenge, and what better challenge than taking on the strongest Yonkus? Us. Her words echoed in the throne room, sending a ripple of excitement through the air. Sylphira, Kalis, and Tessa exchanged knowing glances, their own anticipation bubbling up at the thought of facing a new wave of challengers. Rimuru's golden eyes flickered with excitement as well. I'd like to see how far he's come, he said. After all, defeating Kaido is no small feat. Ultima's laughter filled the hall, sharp and wild. Exactly. And if they do show up here, we'll crush them. Sylphira, standing tall with her piercing gaze, couldn't help but smirk at the conversation. Luffy's crew might be strong, but no one enters our territory and leaves alive unless we allow it, she said confidently. Kalis folded his arms, his deep voice rumbling. This could be interesting. Another battle to prove our superiority. I've been waiting for something like this. Tessa, always more calculated, gave a subtle nod. If they're truly aiming for us, we should prepare accordingly. Luffy and Law are no ordinary pirates. Ultima stood up from her throne suddenly, her laughter subsiding into a low hum of excitement. Oh, I can already picture it. Monkey D. Luffy, trying to storm our territory, thinking he can take us down just like Kaido. But this is no Onigashima, and we are not Kaido. Rimuru leaned forward, his eyes narrowing playfully. When they come, we'll show them the true strength of the Tempest Pirates. But for now, let them come to us. As the room filled with their confident voices and plans for the future, miles away, aboard the Thousand Sunny, a similar conversation was unfolding. On the Thousand Sunny, the sea breeze ruffled the sails of the Thousand Sunny as it cut through the waters, heading toward an unknown destination. On the deck, Monkey D. Luffy sat cross-legged, a wide grin plastered on his face as he stared at the open ocean. Across from him, Trafalgar Law stood with his arms folded, his expression much more serious. Luffy, we need to talk. Luffy blinked, tilting his straw hat back. What's up, Law? You look like something's on your mind. Law sighed, rubbing the back of his neck in frustration. We've taken down Kaido, and we've both got 3 billion berries on our heads now. But this isn't the end. There are still other Yonkus out there. Luffy's grin widened at the mention of more Yonkus. You mean Rimuru and Ultima, right? Law nodded. Exactly. They control a massive amount of territory. They're dangerous, unpredictable. If we're going to keep pushing forward, we can't ignore them. Luffy's eyes sparkled with excitement. So, you're saying we should go after them next? Law narrowed his eyes. I'm saying we don't have a choice. If we want to stay ahead, if we want to challenge the world government, we need to face every obstacle. Rimuru and Ultima. They're the biggest threat standing in our way now. Luffy stood up suddenly, stretching his arms into the air. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go beat their ass like what we did to Kaido. Law frowned. It won't be that simple, Luffy. They're not like Kaido. They're smart, strategic, and they've got a powerful crew backing them. You saw what they did to Big Mom. Luffy's grin didn't falter. I know, but that's what makes it exciting. I want to fight them. I want to see how strong they really are. Law crossed his arms again, his expression still serious. We can't rush into this without a plan. Plan, Shimplan, Luffy said, waving his hand dismissively. I'll just punch them really hard. It worked with Kaido, didn't it? Law rolled his eyes, though a small smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. Typical. But we'll need more than that. We should at least gather information about their territory first. Veldanava Island is their main base, and it's heavily fortified. If we're going to win, we need to know what we're up against. Luffy nodded, but it was clear his mind was already on the fight. Fine. But as soon as we get there, I'm taking on Rimuru and Ultima. I want to see if they're as tough as everyone says. Law gave a resigned sigh. Just try not to get us all killed, okay? Luffy grinned widely, flashing a thumbs up. No promises. Back at Veldanava Island, the day grew late as Rimuru, Ultima, and their generals finished planning their next moves. The air was thick with anticipation. Though they hadn't confirmed it, everyone in the room knew that Luffy and Law would come for them. It was only a matter of time. Ultima stretched, her violet hair catching the light as she stood. We'll be ready when they come, she said confidently. Rimuru nodded. We'll show them why they should have stayed in the shadows. Sylphira smirked, her excitement barely contained. When the time comes, I'll make sure Luffy's crew never forgets the name Tempest Pirates. Kalis, as always, was more composed, but even he couldn't hide the anticipation in his voice. If they come, it will be their downfall. No one enters our territory and leaves unscathed. Tessa nodded in agreement. I'll make sure we're ready for whatever strategy they try to use. We won't be caught off guard. Ultima laughed once again, the sound echoing through the throne room. Let them come. The bigger the threat, the greater the victory. Rimuru smiled, his golden eyes gleaming with the same excitement. Let them try. We've faced worse, and we'll show them why the Tempest Pirates rule these seas. With their plans in place, all they had to do now was wait for the inevitable. The battle against Luffy and Law was on the horizon, and when it came, Rimuru and Ultima were ready to show the world why they were the true rulers of the new world. The air was thick with tension as both sides began to prepare. The coming battle would be one for the history books. A clash between the old generation and the new.